How do you make your enemies fear you? Without raising your voice, without threats, without even saying a word. True power doesn't need volume. It doesn't announce itself. It simply is, a quiet force that causes others to hesitate, question, and fear what they can't understand or predict. Think of a wild predator, not the one that growls, but the one that just watches, still, silent, calculated. That silence alone is more unsettling than any roar. Or picture a chess grandmaster motionless at the board. His opponent sweating, mind racing, trying to guess what's next, but seeing nothing. That's the power of being unreadable. When others don't know your next move, they fear every possibility. In this video, we'll explore 7 silent strategies drawn from Stoic philosophy that will help you create an unshakable presence. Master these, and you won't need to demand respect. You'll command it. Let's begin. 1. Master your emotions. Let's start with the foundation of inner power, emotional control. It sounds simple, but it's anything but easy. When someone tries to provoke you, when they poke, prod, or push for a reaction, the most instinctive thing to do is respond. Anger, defensiveness, frustration. But here's the truth. Reacting gives away your power. The moment you lose control, you've let them win. Power doesn't come from reacting. It comes from not reacting. Stoicism teaches us this through the words of Marcus Aurelius. The nearer a man comes to a calm mind, the closer he is to strength. When you remain grounded, unshaken by the chaos around you, you become something others can't manipulate. You become something they don't know how to handle. Let me share a story. A man I know, we'll call him Thomas, once worked with someone who constantly tried to get under his skin. Subtle insults, passive aggression, constant undermining. At first, Thomas pushed back. He argued, defended, reacted. But he began to notice something. Every time he reacted, his adversary gained power. So he stopped. The next time he was provoked, Thomas didn't flinch. No reaction, no emotion, just calm presence. And something strange happened. The provocations became fewer. The taunts stopped landing. Eventually, they stopped altogether. Why? Because there was no reward, nothing to feed off of. Thomas had taken away the very thing his opponent relied on, emotional leverage. So how do you master your emotions? First, become aware of your triggers. What sets you off and why? Second, in moments of pressure, pause, breathe. Silence is a powerful response. And third, understand this. Remaining calm isn't weakness. It's the highest form of discipline. And in that discipline, there's power few can match. The person who cannot be provoked is the person everyone watches carefully. And quietly, they fear what that person might do, because they can never quite tell what they will do. When you let others dictate your emotions, you give them control. But when you dictate your actions, calmly, consciously, you maintain the upper hand. At the end of the day, strength isn't found in loud voices or explosive tempers. Real power is subtle. It's found in the one who remains centered while others lose their balance. In a world full of noise and chaos, your calmness becomes your edge. Your silence becomes your shield. Your composure becomes your power. 2. Maintain an unshakable presence. Let's explore the quiet force of presence, the kind that doesn't need to speak to be felt. This isn't about being the loudest in the room. It's not about charisma that seeks the spotlight. It's about stillness, a composed, deliberate confidence that turns heads without trying. When you embody this kind of presence, people notice. Not because you demand attention, but because your energy carries weight. There's a subtle kind of strength that comes from deep self-assurance, without arrogance. You don't need to prove anything. You don't need to dominate the conversation. You simply know who you are, and that alone is enough. Confidence without ego is powerful. It doesn't seek approval. It commands quiet respect. Your posture, your eyes, your tone, your stillness, each becomes a signal. Calm, focused, intentional. The Stoics understood this. Lao Tzu once said, "Silence is a source of great strength." And it is. Because silence, when it comes from certainty, not fear, carries more impact than 1,000 words. Let me share a story. A man I know, Ethan, wasn't the loudest in the room. In fact, he rarely spoke unless something truly needed to be said. But when he entered a space, something shifted. Conversation softened. People adjusted their posture. They listened more closely. Why? Because Ethan moved with intention. He didn't rush. He didn't fidget. He didn't over-explain. His presence was grounded. And in that grounding, people felt his confidence, without a word. So, how do you develop this kind of unshakable presence? First, stand tall. Your posture is your first statement to the world. Shoulders back, chin level. Move with intention. Second, slow down. Every movement, every word, let it come from purpose, not reaction. Deliberate action signals self-control. Third, embrace silence. You don't always need to respond. You don't need to fill the space. Let your presence do the speaking. In the end, presence is not about being seen. It's about being felt. Let your stillness echo louder than someone else's shouting. Let your calmness be the reason others pause before they speak. And let your quiet certainty do what noise never could, command respect. Everyone has bold ideas and grand aspirations. But here's the truth. Words are easy. They cost nothing. It's what you do, quietly, consistently, that reveals who you truly are. Your strength, your integrity, and your character aren't defined by what you say. They're revealed in your choices, your habits, your discipline, especially when no one's watching. The most powerful way to show the world who you are isn't through declarations, but through daily, deliberate action. When you live your values, you stop needing to explain yourself. You become your own evidence, your focus, your work ethic, your perseverance. These speak louder than any promise ever could. Action doesn't ask for validation. It proves itself. When you show up consistently, when you pursue excellence not for applause but because it's who you are, the world begins to notice. Not because you told them to, but because the results are undeniable. This is where the wisdom of the Stoics shines. They believe deeply in action over words. Epictetus once said, "Don't explain your philosophy, embody it." Because words can be bent, forgotten, misunderstood. But action? Action is truth in motion. Let me share a story. A man I know, let's call him Jack, used to talk about his goals endlessly. He had a vision, a dream, a plan, and he made sure everyone heard it. But weeks passed, then months, and still no action. Eventually, people stopped listening, not out of cruelty, but because there was nothing to see. One day, Jack realized this, and he made a decision. He would stop talking about what he planned to do and simply start doing it. He showed up, every day, quietly, intentionally, and slowly things began to shift. People noticed, not because he was louder, but because his results spoke for him. His dedication became his introduction, his work became his reputation, and his success, it followed, not from hype, but from habit. So how do you let your actions speak? First, focus on consistency. Even small, steady progress builds unshakable momentum. It's not about how fast you move, it's about never stopping. Second, pursue excellence in the little things. Mediocrity doesn't command respect. Doing your best, even when it doesn't seem to matter, always leaves a mark. Third, build resilience. Life will challenge you, but how you respond, how you keep going, that's what defines you. Strength isn't shown when things are easy. It's revealed when things get hard. In the end, people may forget what you said, but they'll remember what you did. So don't talk about discipline. Live it. Don't preach perseverance. Practice it. Let your actions be the message. Let your consistency build the story. And when you walk the path quietly, without needing to announce it, you become someone the world respects without question. 4. Don't overreact to insults. Let's talk about one of the most powerful forms of self-control, refusing to overreact to insults. It's tempting to defend yourself when someone tries to tear you down. Instinct says fight back, prove them wrong. But the moment you react emotionally, you give away your power. You're letting someone else decide how you feel. That's exactly what they want, to press your buttons and watch you unravel. But here's the truth. Indifference is a weapon. When you don't react, when you meet their insult with calm silence, you shift the power dynamic. Suddenly, they're not in control anymore. You are. Your calmness exposes their desperation. They wonder why their words don't land, why you're unmoved. And in that moment, they've already lost. You've shown them that their opinion holds no weight in your world. This is the essence of Stoic wisdom. Epictetus taught that we don't control the actions of others, but we always control our response. It's not what happens to you, it's how you react that defines your strength. Let me share a story. There was a woman, let's call her Linda. She had a colleague who constantly mocked her, made sarcastic comments in meetings, and spread gossip. At first, she tried to stand up for herself, explain, correct, but it only escalated. Her reactions gave her colleague fuel. Then Linda shifted. She stopped reacting. No anger, no defense, just calm indifference. And everything changed. The insult stopped. The power dynamic reversed. Because Linda didn't give her colleague the reaction they were craving. So how do you master this? Pause before responding. Breathe. Assess. Don't react on impulse. Detach emotionally. If someone can trigger you, they control you. Practice indifference. Not everything deserves your attention. Sometimes silence is the most powerful answer. In the end, your greatest strength is emotional discipline. Don't let anyone pull you out of character. Stay grounded, stay calm, and let their words fall flat. Control what they know about you. The more people know about your triggers, your plans, or your insecurities, the easier it is for them to influence or manipulate you. That's why one of the smartest things you can do is control the information you share. This isn't about being deceptive, it's about being selective. You don't owe anyone full access to your inner world. Keeping parts of yourself private protects your peace. It prevents others from using your vulnerabilities against you or swaying your decisions. This is where Stoic thinking meets strategic living. Sun Tzu once said, "Appear weak when you are strong, and strong when you are weak." It's not about pretending. It's about understanding the value of restraint. When people can't predict you, they can't control you. Let me tell you about Chris. Chris used to be completely open at work. He shared his goals, his stress, and even his personal challenges with colleagues, thinking that transparency would build trust. But slowly, things shifted. People began using his words against him, doubting his capability when he admitted struggles, questioning his work ethic, subtly applying pressure where they sensed weakness. Eventually, Chris realized he was giving away too much, so he pulled back. He stopped explaining himself. He shared less, not in a cold or distant way, but in a wise, deliberate one. The result? He regained control. People stopped trying to manage him because they couldn't read him. His confidence increased, and so did their respect. So how do you apply this? Be mindful of what you share. Not everyone deserves to know your story. Embrace mystery. The less predictable you are, the harder it is to be manipulated. Use your strength strategically. Reveal it only when it serves a purpose, not just to prove a point. In the end, power lies in privacy. The less others know about you, the more you control your narrative. Guard your inner world. Let people wonder, because true strength often hides behind silence. 6. Make power moves in silence. You don't need to announce your plans. People will understand who you are when they see the work, the discipline, and the consistency behind your results. That's where your message speaks the loudest, through what you do, not what you say. Let me share a story. There's a woman, let's call her Emma. She used to share every new goal, every step she was planning with friends and colleagues. At first, it felt empowering. It felt like momentum. But over time, she noticed something. The more she talked about what she was going to do, the more resistance she encountered. People gave their opinions. Some doubted her. Others offered advice she didn't ask for. Slowly, all that noise started to affect her. Her confidence took a hit. That's when she made a shift. She stopped explaining. She stopped announcing. She got quiet and focused. She began executing in silence. No validation seeking, no justifying, just work. And when her results started speaking, they were undeniable. No one could argue with her success because it was built, not broadcast. So how do you move in silence? Protect your plans. Not every idea needs to be shared. Talking too early invites distractions. Do the work. Let your focus shift from declaring intentions to delivering outcomes. Let results speak. Real progress doesn't need to announce itself. It shows up clearly, and it can't be ignored. At the end of the day, the loudest statements are made by people who don't need to say a word. True power is quiet. It's calm. It doesn't seek approval. It builds quietly until the outcome is impossible to ignore. Keep your ambitions private. Let your discipline do the talking. Because when success arrives, it speaks louder than any plan ever could. People will notice your commitment. They'll witness your discipline, your resilience, and your progress. And when the results start to show, they'll understand exactly who you are and what you're truly capable of. Let me share a story. A woman I know, let's call her Emma, used to always talk about her goals. Every idea, every plan, every new ambition, she shared it all with friends and coworkers. At first, it felt exciting, energizing. But over time, she noticed a pattern. The more she talked, the more resistance she met. People would offer unsolicited advice, doubt her vision, or even question her abilities. And slowly, her own confidence began to shake. So Emma made a shift. She stopped announcing her next moves. She kept her goals private and poured her energy into the work itself. She let her actions do the talking. And when the results came, they spoke louder than any announcement ever could. Her success became undeniable because it was built, not broadcast. So how do you make power moves in silence? First, keep your plans to yourself. Not everyone needs to know what you're working on. Avoid distraction, stay grounded, and protect your vision. Second, stay locked in. Talk less, execute more. Your energy belongs in your effort, not in explaining your every move. And third, let your results speak for you. People will see your dedication. They'll see the growth, the wins, the impact. And you won't have to say a word. Because real power, it's not in what you say. It's in what you do. Keep your ambitions quiet, and let your success be the loudest thing about you. Now let's talk about something else. Being unapologetically yourself. One of the most liberating things you can do in life is to stop shrinking for others. In a world where everyone's trying to fit in, it's powerful to stand tall in your truth. When you stop chasing validation, when you stop pretending to be something you're not, you step into a version of yourself that commands respect, not because you ask for it, but because you embody it. Here's the truth. People fear what they can't influence. And someone who doesn't seek approval, they're untouchable. You take back your power the moment you stop trying to impress everyone. The right people will respect you for being real. The ones who don't, they were never your people to begin with. Let me tell you about Jake. Jake was a guy who used to mold himself to fit in, laughing at jokes that didn't land, downplaying his ideas to avoid judgment, hiding pieces of himself just to feel accepted. But it was exhausting, and it left him feeling hollow. So he made a decision. He stopped performing, he spoke his truth, he stood up for what he believed in, and he stopped caring whether everyone agreed with him. What happened next surprised even him. People began to respect him more, not because he was louder, but because he was real. They saw his confidence, his clarity, and his courage. And Jake, he finally felt like himself again. So how do you become unapologetically you? Step 1. Stop chasing approval. You don't need permission to be who you are. Step 2. Own your uniqueness. What sets you apart is your power, not your problem. And step 3. Define yourself. Because when you live by your own values, not someone else's expectations, you create a freedom that no one can take away. In the words of the Stoics, don't let others define your worth. Live with integrity, align with your truth, and let the rest take care of itself. When you do that, you become someone the world can't ignore. Not because you demanded attention, but because you earned respect simply by being you. The things that set you apart, those aren't weaknesses. They're your edge. Your difference is your strength. Don't shrink it to make others comfortable. Let it speak. Let it live. But here's the key. Don't wait for permission. Don't look for validation. The world doesn't need another copy. It needs your truth. Live by your own standards, not the expectations placed on you. When you do that, when you choose authenticity over approval, your life begins to align. You stop performing. You stop carrying the weight of trying to fit in. And something shifts. You become clear, steady, unshakable. At the end of the day, the moment you stop molding yourself to fit, you stop being controlled by others' opinions. That's where freedom begins. Be unapologetically yourself, not to provoke, not to stand out, but because that's where your power lives. When you own who you are, the world doesn't just notice. It starts to respect you for it. Quietly, naturally, unmistakably.